This is the story of Peter Dawson, the youngest of 9 children, born to a South Australian ironworker and plumber, who rose to the world stage as the highest-selling male recording artist in the world. Born in 1882, he began singing at a very early age. By 8, he was singing in church choirs, at 17 with the Adelaide Gardens Orchestra, and in the same year he commenced vocal lessons with C.J. Stevens. In 1900, he was soloist in Handel's Messiah at the Adelaide Town Hall. Stevens, realising his student possessed a unique voice, encouraged him to go to London, and in 1902 Dawson left to study with the eminent baritone Professor Cantorez. Joining popular opera singer Madame Albani, he performed at the Crystal Palace, Alexandra Palace and Queen's Hall, followed by successful tours of England and the continent. With his remarkably fluent and technically adroit vocal skills, Dawson next joined the English Opera at Covent Garden. His stage career was set. Peter Dawson's recording career covered an extraordinary 60 years, unique in spanning technological changes from the 2-minute cylinder to the long-playing record. His first recordings, in 1904, were wax cylinders for the Edison Bell Company, and 2 years later he was signed to an exclusive contract with the Gramophone Company, the predecessor of HMV EMI. His total record sales exceeded 13 million, with some 3,500 titles in various catalogues. There was a time when most households in England and Australia had at least one Peter Dawson recording, if not dozens. There were so many songs, he invented pseudonyms for his various styles, including Frank Danby for light songs, Will Strong for music hall ditties, Hector Grant for Scottish songs, and so on. His recording output knew no bounds. In 1908, Peter Dawson was principal baritone in the highly regarded Chapel Ballad Concerts, and in the following year he returned to Australia to join Amy Castle's company of singers for a 6-month national tour, followed by Australian and New Zealand touring for his own company of performers.
Left, right, here he comes, ta-da-da-da-da, pom-pom-pom. People cry as a man comes by, ta-da-da-da-da, pom-pom.
With the outbreak of war in 1914, he returned to England to perform for wartime charities and the troops, ever keen to hear his renditions of Arm, Arm, Ye Brave, On the Road to Mandalay, Roses of Picardy, and his own patriotic composition, V for Victory.
On the road to Mandalay, where the flying fishes play, and the dawn comes up like thunder.
His reputation was now such that he was considered the finest baritone of the day. He was to the ballad what Melba was to the opera. It was then back to Australia, where he enlisted and, as Private Dawson, performed morale-building concerts across Australia.
If you wake at midnight and hear the horse's feet, don't go drawing back the blind or looking in the street. Them that ask look where.
In 1931, after topping the bill at the London Palladium, he toured Australia with renowned pianist Mark Hamburg. This was his most successful tour, both artistically and financially. He was also a successful songwriter, composing in his own name, and more often than not, under 10 pseudonyms, including J.P. McCall, Peter Allison, Denton Toms, and 2 female personas, Alison Miller and Evelyn Bird. There are so many songs associated with Peter Dawson. His distinctive vocal timbre and perfect diction brought life to Gilbert and Sullivan, Wagner and his personal favourite, Handel, especially The Messiah. His classic performances of popular hits like Boots, The Floral Dance, Off to Philadelphia, and I Am a Roma prompted the 1984 Guinness Book of Recorded Sound to list him in the top 10 singers on disc of all time, alongside such luminaries as Elvis Presley and Enrico Caruso. Peter Dawson returned time and again to tour his native Australia and was here at the outbreak of World War II. He joined the war effort by broadcasting, recording and performing for recruiting drives and at army camps with troop concert parties. The singer took delight in referring to himself as a dinkum Aussie. He certainly elevated 3 of our most popular Australian songs, for it was Dawson who popularised both our unofficial national anthem, Waltzing Matilda, recorded in 1938, and our national anthem, Advance Australia Fair, recorded in 1927. His 1931 recording of Along the Road to Gundagai was commemorated in 2007 by the National Film and Sound Archives in its Sounds of Australia registry.
Come a waltzing Matilda with me. And he sang as he watched and
Dawson had planned to retire after the war, but he claimed his tax bills were so gripping that he had to keep singing and recording. He admitted to being a hopeless businessman. However, his music credentials were extremely rich. Peter Dawson, one of the great singers of all time, died in his Sydney home on the 27th of September 1961. He's buried at Rookwood Cemetery.